Welcome back to the show, everybody. Take a look at these numbers while we run the headlines here. We got USD coin and strategic integration for you. Loomis clips of the hearing today on payments, new payment systems, ladies and gentlemen. Another great clip from Brad Garlinghouse. And how about a Black Swan event? How about somebody roll that beautiful intro?
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook for exclusive content. I'll get it out. It's like I didn't know I was making a video, right? Yeah, I've done this once or twice. You think I'd have this down to a smooth intro at this point. I hope everybody's having a great afternoon. I'm struggling, as you can hear. But we've got some great news for you nonetheless. $960 billion market cap plus, and we see Bitcoin right now 19,000, slightly over. Market's fallen over a bit, but not for everybody. 1,200 plus for Ethereum. XRP at the number 6 spot at 43 cents, 7.79% on the 24-hour and 34% plus on the 7-day, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we're kicking it today. And let me tell you what else is kicking it. It is fine art, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I have bought into this artist's work. I'm going to show you right here. Christopher Wool has an incredible appreciation to similar works. Nothing's a guarantee in this market whenever you're investing. But you know what? During uncertain times, the richest people in the world have been investing into fine art, and now for the first time, my non-rich self can do it too. That's right. The millionaire next door can do it as well, and I love being able to do it. And you can compare it against all the other markets with this comparison right here, or you could just go in and buy the art that you like the most, but click the link underneath the video to find out more about it. Digital Chamber of Commerce shared this update as we know that their brief was accepted for the SEC versus Ripple for the amicus brief. So that looks like we got another one sitting beside John Deaton on the way here. And I want to remind everybody really quick before we see this next piece after this clip right here, which just reminds you, Gary Gensler, this is when he taught at MIT. He knew exactly what Ethereum was, and it was centralized.
I think Ethereum's a bit more centralized. I think Ethereum's a bit more centralized. I think Ethereum's a bit more centralized. I think
Yeah, we do too, Gary. That is something we align on. And we know now with the proof of stake, the U.S. SEC, Gary Gensler, has come out and said he believes that everything on the Ethereum network falls under the SEC's jurisdiction. People say, and Brad Garlinghouse and Ryan Selkis actually talked about it yesterday at the conference, Mainnet, and they said, you know, it's a little weird how something can go from, you know, not being, it was a security, but it's not a security, and now back to a security. It never wasn't a security. How about that one? It was always an unregistered ICO. And that's why in this little quick clip, you hear this arrogant guy right here, Ryan Selkis, who thinks an awful lot of himself, and he distanced himself from what he believes, I think, is a lightning strike coming to consensus in Ethereum.
Before 2017.
Well, the closest comparison in that era, I think, was a company you worked at. Consensus, the company, was building on top of the Ethereum ecosystem and owned Ethereum. And I think was a relatively speaking, the most comparable consensus is to Ripple as ETH was to XRP. And that both companies were active in those ecosystems trying to drive adoption.
Well, I was only at consensus for like 8 weeks, so I'll let Joe fight that battle. But
I think Brad was going to say, I know it's on your resume or maybe on your Twitter profile, whatever it is. But I tell you what, he was there. And what he's doing now is absolutely trying to distance himself from what I believe Ryan Selkis has known from day one. From day one. Yeah. And I think he knows exactly what it is. This is a clip here from Darren Moore. Give him a follow. Hope you're recovering well, my friend. It says here, Janet, I have to talk to you about this in the SEC thing. Let's do lunch. This quick clip is actually the swearing in of this Chief Lynn right here. And actually, she references seeing
advisory committee.
Rosie Rios.
Being with us today. Thank you, Deb. Former Treasurer Rosie Rios, welcome back to Treasury.
And Rosie's actually, I went and watched this whole swearing in, and it doesn't look like she's been brought back. Rosie's been brought back to the Treasury. It really appears to me that Janet Yellen's just acknowledging her presence at the swearing in event of Chief Lynn. I can't remember her last name. It escapes me right now, but congratulations to her from the Mohegan tribe. And Rosie Rios was there in support of that, and I think Janet Yellen was just acknowledging it. So at first, I thought she was actually being brought back as like a transition team kind of thing. Who knows? Or for the executive order advisory group, but it doesn't believe that. I don't believe that that's the case. But what I do believe the case is, according to Brad Garlinghouse, is that summary judgment should be somewhere between 2 to 9 months from now. Think of it. No more of this lack of clarity for XRP. Now remember, this doesn't have to be all one way or the other. This could very easily be a split the baby kind of decision, and I believe that it probably will be, no matter how much it's been in favor of Ripple up until now. Remember, there's still a very, very important role for Ripple to play with its real use case in settling payments and derivatives and clearing. So keep those things in mind. Today, later on, it's going to be Brad Garlinghouse on the Liz Clayman Show at 3:45. We will have that for you. And XRP can now be accepted by merchants using cloud payments thanks to new BitPay partner. How about that? Let's take a look at it. Right here, it says thanks to a new partnership between BitPay, a pioneer in crypto payments integration, and Gray4V, also Gravy, or Gray4V, however you want to say. These names, I don't know what they do with the marketing, what's happening here. But at any rate, a provider of cloud-native payment solutions, XRP will be available for acceptance by merchants using the company's payment orchestration platform, POP, as a part of the partnership. Merchant using GR4VY services will be able to install BitPay into their payment software and start accepting cryptocurrencies instantly without the need to implement any code. In addition to XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Shiba Inu, and other popular cryptocurrencies used by BitPay will also be available for acceptance by merchants using POP as well. I don't know if you're aware of this, but my sponsor Link to has actually got Ripple on the platform for a $5,000 minimum. And BitPay. Yeah, don't believe it. It's still true. Click the link underneath the video. And while all of this is taking place, we're getting ready to have some hearings from today too, by the way. Senator Loomis and Jamie Dimon, of all people. And you're going to hear those clips right here in just a moment. But remember this, NASDAQ joins BlackRock as TradeFi defies the bear market and embraces crypto. That's the kind of stuff I want to see happening, especially in a time of uncertainty. For me at least. This is Sid DeYoung, Managing Director of Ripple in Europe. Exciting time for UK crypto industry as the government reiterates its commitment to becoming a leader in the crypto hub. It says right here, a crypto community is excited by UK's declaration that it still wants to be a crypto hub. Listen, the world is moving towards it, and so is Circle. Puerto Rico's FV Bank and stablecoin issuer Circle announced a strategic integration focused on USD coin deposits. FV Bank said customers will be able to receive USD coin in their accounts, instantly turn it into US dollars. I don't know if you're realizing this, but quietly we're watching Circle connect to everything. And let's not forget that Circle's also doing a Euro stable coin already as well. All right, now here it is. This is Clips Today. Shout out to JV. Gary Gensler resigned. Yeah, JV the Great here. Let's listen to this. Just now at the Senate Hearing Committee, you need to check this out. They're talking about JPM and JPM coin and payment systems. You're going to want every bit of this.
For example, is far too slow and costly. So your bank is currently testing JPM coin. It's a type of stable coin for faster settlement. Could you talk a little bit about our duty to responsibly innovate, to stay a world leader. Same question to Mr. Cesare.
Yeah, I mean, America already is the world innovator and world leader, and China is a serious competitive strategic issue we all have to deal with. And so I totally agree with that. I don't think Americans should be embarrassed. I mean, we still have the most prosperous nation on the planet, all of the food, water, and energy we need, free enterprise, the gifts of God, the gifts of our founding fathers. They have autocracy, not enough food, water, and energy. They need 15 million barrels of oil a day. They get 4 from themselves or their immediate neighbors, stuff like that. We're in very good shape. The lazy part, talking about his policy, is things we got wrong, what we could have done better. Immigration, taxation, regulation, healthcare, litigation, all these things. I think it slowed down America. And I think we should all be focusing more, how can we grow more and create more wealthier, afford more military, et cetera, et cetera. And innovation in cryptocurrency, they're probably ahead in a couple of areas, and I think we should recognize that and combat that, and I'm not really worried about it as long as we get our act together.
Mr. Cesare?
I agree. I think one particular area of innovation that's critically important is money movement and payments activity. And I think the banks are working together with each other as well as our regulators on activities like real-time payments, Zelle, even FedNow. All those things I think will position us well for future payments activity.
That's very powerful. Now I got that reminded me of this. Take a listen to this.
I would just note that, for the kind of core banking architecture, I think there would probably be some changes needed in terms of the Federal Reserve System. But for, smaller valuation or smaller amount payments, I think you already are seeing some blockchain-based systems being created that enable the movement of money. So I think there are examples out there. We talk about XRP or others that kind of offer this.
Now, the PayPal, Mr. Ahmed, that I just played you was not from today. That was from a couple years ago. But the conversation that's happening in this hearing today is reminding me a lot of what Mr. Ahmed from PayPal talked about at that time a couple years ago. Take a listen to this clip.
The real-time payment system, the ability to get a 24/7 wire system at the Fed would be critical to it, and their new real-time system ought to provide that. But one of the disadvantages in payment system technology is the ability to pay on the weekends and move substantial amount of money that actually clears. T+0 securities settlement would be doable if you actually could have the money move during the night. And so I think we're all aware of that. We've connected our real-time payment system. We're connecting it to other parts of the world that we've put together through the clearinghouse. That'll enable money to move real time. You connect that with Zelle and things, you can move it with no cost to another banking client. As long as someone doesn't step in and say, oh, that is not sufficient to have Santander in Spain, you do the KYC so we can rely on it. We need some enabling things. And I think, if we do that right, we can take, you will see the innovation this is already set up and already moving. And by the way, we move trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars a day very efficiently. So I think people's view of what's inefficient is kind of interesting, but you have to look at what really moves.
Well, we're aware that money was transferred in cryptocurrency as donations to Ukraine. They were spending it the next day. And if it had been transferred in U.S. dollars, it would have taken about 10 days for it to reach. I see some of you shaking your heads. Disagree, Mr. Dimon?
Right now, we're moving $10 trillion around the world. Zipping and zapping through AML systems, OFAC systems, regulations, AI systems, cyber systems, safely, immediately, a lot of it's real time. You're talking about retail payments.
Yes, I am.
Yes, and I agree with that. That's a thing that we all can work on and fix. But that's a very small thing relative to the other.
Thank you for being here. I yield back.
But
well, I tell you what, Jamie Dimon come off like a real piece on that one, didn't he? It's interesting to me because it is the admission that they're all working on these fractionalized payment zones and making them updated so they can all interoperate together. The interesting part will be to see how these domestic payment systems all connect to move liquidity across each other's network. I think that's going to be a key thing to pay attention to right there. Possible window, I believe, to see a role of either a XLM or XRP to participate in bridging those payment systems. So we'll keep an eye out for that. At least that's the hope in my mind. So let's take a look at this, because when it comes to getting that job done, Brad Garlinghouse reminds all of us they are regulated.
buy XRP who've never heard of Ripple, and that's okay. But the idea that XRP is a security of Ripple, I just think is nonsense.
Me too.
How
Brad.
should crypto be regulated in the U.S.?
Well, by the way, it is regulated in the U.S.
Under whose oversight should some of these assets sit?
I mean, there are a bunch of projects here in the room. I'm sure that, look, Ripple's regulated today by FinCEN, we have a BIT license in New York. I'm thinking of the U.S. regulators. Outside the U.S., we have, a bunch of licenses depending on which country. But, Gary Gensler has gone out there and tried to portray, and he uses the word, crypto is the Wild West. For those of us in the industry, it's like, I don't think it's the Wild West at all. I mean, is there volatility? Yes. But, I think the vast, vast, vast majority of people in crypto want to follow the rules of the road. Mm-hmm. We need clear rules of the road. And for Gary Gensler, he's just added confusion to the system by, his lawsuit going after the former Coinbase employee saying that that was insider trading of securities. But he's not going after Coinbase, where they were traded. He's going after the individual, I think because the individual doesn't have the money and resources that Coinbase would do to defend themselves. This is just a shitty way for a government to actually regulate. I mean,
it really is. I mean, he just says it exactly the way it should be said, to be perfectly honest. What a really, really great way to say it. And you know what? That really brings me to the idea and understanding what we're talking about here. We're watching USD coin integrate here. We're watching hearings on new payment systems, right? This is the things that we're watching take place. They're not up. You can speculate about them, but those things are happening, right? We have Brad Garlinghouse reiterate to us that we are BIT licensed. We are regulated through FinCEN, which is really a piece of the Treasury. And I ask myself, because this article, this point, this narrative just keeps coming to the surface. Catherine Polk Falia, a judge for the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of New York, has ordered Tether's parent company to provide financial records for its USD Tether stablecoin. And looky here, you want to talk about a poke the bear moment? Look at this. Plaintiffs explain why they need this information to assess the backing of USD Tether with US dollars and to allow a forensic accountant to assess the USD Tether reserve, according to the judge. Makes sense to me. I know it makes sense to most of you. In response to the order, New York-based law firm DeVoy and Plimpton, which represent iFinex on the case, which is where the reserves are supposed to be, said that the plaintiff's requests demonstrate their failure to actively prosecute their case, as well as their unwillingness to tailor their patently overbroad request to documents that are relevant to their claims. This is not the way I would be speaking to a judge from the Southern District of New York. I can tell you that. You talk about poking the bear, let alone the CTO. I'm not going to play the video for you right now, but I tell you what, I've got it if we need it. The CTO for Tether telling Bloomberg reporter, journalist, they don't back with commercial paper. They don't back with U.S. treasuries. They don't have an outside accounting firm for their reserves. And they have their law firm, DeVoy and Plimpton, send a message that says, we don't think you got the stones to prosecute or the evidence. I tell you, I don't know if we see a Black Swan event, but I feel like we're going to. Now, whether that happens before the end of the year or whether that happens sometime next year, I couldn't begin to guess. But I tell you something, I don't see Tether operating in a fashion that is doing anything other than saying, come and get me. Right? And that is not what you want to tell the government or anyone part of it, whether it's New York or the United States. I could tell you that, federal or state level. Looking right here, let's talk about what's going on with the charts because the price has been strong like bull. XRP, 2 weeks MACD. We see the potential cross coming here, and if we get it, Technical analyst said we got upside coming, baby. But we got to see it for it to happen. That's the difference. And then we have this from old throwback right here. Shout out to Coins Kid. XRP needs to see the follow through. Don't worry if you missed the train. You should get another chance at 38 cents if it is impulsive off the June low. Looking at this, you see the June low, and it says you are here. So we could see it pull back here. It could go up high as air, retrace back. You know how all these things work. But we know right here, we see something to keep an eye on because it's where we are. And if we do get back to 38, it may be a test of that and maybe hopefully push higher. But if not, what if we get a tether event, ladies and gentlemen? What if we get a tether event? Then what? What if the DOJ busts into the door on tether? What if it's Wrigley, or if there's a strict order that goes around to take it off of all the exchanges? I'm just asking. I mean, I don't know if these things will happen, but I think they're worth thinking about and leaving on the burner to see what really unfolds. Listen, we're closing out the end of the year, which means it's time to start thinking about taxes in your crypto. If you're going to do that, do not take a step forward without clicking the link underneath the video for Crypto Tax Audit. This is Clinton Donnelly here, and he is the foremost tax authority. And I tell you, just a few weeks from now, I'm going to have a video that I've had a sneak peek at of just why it is so very important to make sure you don't mess around. You will be blown away by what you're going to learn about what the possibility is on how to track crypto from the IRS chair. Click that link underneath the video. I'm not a financial advisor, but I tell you what, I am sharing my digital perspectives, and that's where they are on this day. I'll catch all of you on the next one.